So 2021 first quarter have shown yet again another crazy real estate market, with sales and average sales price peaking at a record high, plus the fact that the recent federal budget have not really addressed this issue as I've talked about in my previous videos. A lot of people are actually wondering if this will ever stop, especially for single detached homes, or are we going to see prices keep going up and up and up? Now in this video, I'm actually going to tell you why I think single detached home and big townhouses are going to cool off and stagnate relatively, and it will be the small townhomes and condos that will begin to pick up steam. And in my video, I'll also be talking about what I'm doing with my real estate given my own projection. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we start, as always, this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you my personal projection and the data I'm looking at. Make sure you talk to a realtor to make your own decisions. So there are basically 5 major factors I'm looking at that could suggest a slowdown of the single detached house market in Canada. So first 2 factors, we want to be looking at the rental side. So we're going to be looking at the rental demand and rental prices. Now let's start with the rental price as first factor, and it's the fact that rental price might be bottoming out. So if we look at rental.ca on the latest rent report, rent has been in free fall last year. However, one thing to note is that average rent is not to be trusted because they can be skewed by outliers. We have to look at the median rent. Now, if we look at the median rent of first quarter, we can see that the rental across all sizes and all types of properties have picked up. And if we look at the major cities, we can see for the first time since July 2020, rent has picked back up for most of the cities, suggesting that the rent may be bottoming out. Now, this is just 1 month since it has picked back up. This is something that we will have to look at consistently month over month to check whether this is a consistent pattern or just a one-time blip. But if the rent is really bottoming out, this is going to bring some demand back into the investment side, and people are going to start looking at rentals again. Which brings me to the second point, and that's the possible rental demand shift due to vaccination. So in Canada, based on the rollout speed and the projections, we're looking at everybody getting the first dose by June, and likely getting fully vaccinated by September. Now, because of COVID last year, we know that the immigration dropped to a record low. So this year, if we are expecting borders to open and travel to resume by September, then we should see a much stronger immigration in 2021 and 2022. Now, as we said before, rentals are a majority part of the demand when it comes to renting, because when they come here, it's very unlikely that they will get a house right away. They're likely going to rent 6 to 12 months first, settle down, and then look to purchase their property if they want to purchase one. So as immigration pick back up, rental demand should also kick back in. So this, in combination of the fact that a lot of schools have announced they're thinking of reopening their school for in-school learning in September, this is also going to bring a lot of students back in the rental market. A majority of these renters are going to be focused on the condo market. Now, vaccination program may not just shift the external demand, it also can change our domestic demand as well. Because of lockdown last year, there has been a lot more people working from home and also not sending their kids to daycare or school. And this has really brought up demand to get a bigger space, either from renting or buying. But as vaccination increase every day, people will gradually sending their kids back to school, and also some work from home might be returning to the office. So their demand from last year for bigger units can quickly change back to smaller places. Now, this claim has been supported by renting agents inside the Rentals.ca report, saying that more people have been returning to downtown Vancouver and Toronto, looking to lock down a better rental price into the lease while the rent is lower ahead of everyone else. Alright, so first 2 factors, we look at the rental side and we're saying that rental demand could be shifting and average rent could be bottoming out. Next, let's look at the actual supply, and we're going to be looking at pent-up supply. So last year, whenever we spoke about the real estate market, we've said this over and over again that pent-up demand is a huge thing driving the market up, because we basically squish 6 months of demand into 2 months of summer. However, with vaccine rolling out right now, we have to consider the other end of the spectrum, which is pent-up supply. Now, we have talked about this before, but we have said that when it comes to buying and selling houses, people that are selling is going to be a lot more reluctant than the people that are looking to buy. People's psychology, it's a lot less safe if someone is coming into your house and looking at your house and bringing in the germs versus you going into other people's places. Now, I've talked to some real estate agents. They all confirm that when it comes to selling, there seems to be a lot more resistance with people coming into their home. That's why most of them don't even bother listing right now. Now, with vaccine rolling out, more and more Canadians are being vaccinated every day, at least with one dose. With this logic, there should be more people now willing to list their home and put it onto the market. And in fact, the Canada Real Estate Association stats suggest the same thing. So in March, the new listing for homes have went up 7.5%, which is a new record. Combined with the February, supply is up 25% overall in Canada. And in combination with the fact that increase in supply have outpaced the increase in sales, the sales to new listing have dropped from the 90.9% average to 80.5%. Now, the normal average overall is 54.4%, so we're still extremely high compared to the norms. But this has suggested that inventory is starting to build back up, and this could really have something to do with the pent-up supply. Now, one thing to note is that even though the supply is adding up, it's not the same rate across all types of property. So if we hop over to ZLT, which shows the Vancouver inventory, we see that active listing has increased for all properties month on month. However, for single detached homes, it has increased almost 31.5%, and for townhomes it's 25.3%, whereas condo is only a 1% increase in inventory. Now, if we hop over to Toronto, it's not as drastic. However, according to TREP, new listing in detached homes is still outpacing condo month on month. Now, when you think about it, this actually can make sense, because if we go with the theory originally saying that sellers are more reluctant to sell during pandemic because they're not vaccinated yet, and if we look at the rollout program, which is prioritizing older ages, so they start at the top and then work their way down, it does make sense that a lot of the detached home owners, which is 45 plus, already got 1 or 2 doses already. So they would be able to list their home a lot quicker than the condo owners, which are primarily going to be younger people since it's a lot cheaper. So this could make sense and support why single detached home is seeing a faster increase in inventory than the condo space. Now, other than the fact that the vaccine rollout program may contribute to why single houses are going up more, another theory could to do with price. If someone is on the fence before, they're not sure if they want to sell their single houses, looking at the fact that it has outgrown townhomes and condo for last year, most of the places is 30% plus more expensive. Now they might be a lot more enticed to sell their home at a peak price and downsize to a smaller unit. Which brings me to the next point on why I think condo is coming back into favor and single house is going to cool down. Is price fatigue. Now, before we move on to the other factors, a quick reminder, we have a private group on Facebook with almost 3,500 members where you can ask questions and get more exclusive content. So if you're interested, make sure you click the link in the description below to join the group. So if you look at the screen right now, here is various cities on the year-on-year growth for different property types. Now, obviously, single detached homes have accelerated the most out of all properties. In a lot of places, apartment prices remained stagnant for last year. It has not increased much. And we know that all the bidding war that was going on is primarily on the townhome and the housing side. And this is going to create several couple things. Number one is the people that will get outbid will get discouraged. So if they get discouraged, if they try 10 times, 20 times, and they're constantly getting outbid and they have no idea how much they're getting outbid by, they're going to do a couple things here. Number one is either they will give up on the bidding war and just wait, or number two, they might actually convince themselves that they don't need a single detached home and they want to start with something smaller, maybe a townhome or even a 3-bedroom condo or 2-bedroom condo. Now, in fact, I have many of these conversations with my clients, and many of them actually, because of losing bidding war over and over again, they have decided to go for smaller townhomes or even a 3-bedroom apartment because they don't want to go through the whole process of bidding and then losing again and again. Now, the second thing that will create is the discrepancy in the room to grow in terms of profit. So previously, if you're serious real estate investors, if you really want to make maximum cash flow, the best way is probably go to suburb, buy a house for cheap, renovate this into 3 or 4 sub-units, and then rent them out for the best possible return. But suburb price have gone up because of work from home. In fact, in some places, most places, it has even gone up more than the city single detached homes. So if investor is still looking to add real estate into their portfolio, they're going to look at all options and then ask themselves which one has the most room to grow. And basically the only thing that's left is apartments. So like we said before, if rent is bottoming out, if immigration is returning, if traveling is starting, then we know that condo is going to be in high demand again for renters and travelers. You can do long-term rental, you can turn it into Airbnb again. A lot of people that have Airbnb before, now they're stuck in a 1-year lease at least with their renters. So it's gonna take some time for them to convert back into Airbnb should travels restart again. So initially there could be a shortage of Airbnb units, and if you're an investor right now, you could be looking at this and say, well, maybe it's time for me to scoop out some units in the downtown areas in preparation of what's about to come in the next 1 or 2 years. And in fact, hearing from some realtors, they have been telling me that condo markets have got a lot more viewings, especially downtown ones, than 6 months ago. So last factor that we want to talk about is stress test and interest rate change. Now we spoke about this in the previous videos already, but OSFI has announced they are considering to change stress test to 5% in June. Also, Bank of Canada have announced they will consider to increase rate in the second half of 2022. Now both is going to hit all types of property in terms of affordability and demand. But if we look at previous record, if we look at Vancouver 2018 home prices, for example, once the stress tests have implemented, single detached home fell more compared to apartment after the stress test was implemented. Now, there's no clear evidence whether this is all based on the stress test or maybe there's some other things going on at that time. But the thought process is that the stress test is going to push down the max affordability for everyone. However, most people actually won't hit the ceiling if they're looking into a condo. Whereas it's a lot more likely to happen if you're looking at the housing. There's a lot more people that are punching at their maximum weight class trying to get a single detached home versus someone that's trying to get a condo. So it does make sense that if we lower the affordability ceiling, more people in the single detached home market is going to get hit. And also a 1% increase on a single detached home mortgage, which is probably a mil plus, it's going to cost a lot more than a condo mortgage, which is probably 400 to 500k on average. Now, yes, you might be saying that, well, the people living in the single detached home probably makes more than the person living in a condo. Yes, there's a high probability that is true, but there are also people that can afford both. They're just choosing to live in condo to get a smaller mortgage. But there's no chance to be other way around. There's no chance someone that can only afford the condo and they choose to live in the single detached home. So what that means is if there's going to be an increase in interest rate, it has a much higher probability to actually affect a single detached home owner's cash flow and make a big difference for him versus someone that owns a condo. So with all 5 factors combined, this is why I believe that single detached home is more likely to cool down and stagnate in their sales in the second half of 2021, whereas more people is going to shift over the condo space. Either they're investors looking to buy again, or they could be someone looking to get their first home. Maybe they could get the single detached home before, but with all the bidding war, with all the variable coming into play, they might now consider maybe get a townhouse and allocate some of the fund to get a small condo for rent to build their rental portfolio that way. I have a lot of clients that are considering that right now, so I could see that extending to the majority of the market and hence shifting the demand over to the condo side. Which is also why I've said this before, but for my own rental portfolio, I am selling it during the summertime if my tenant is willing to move out early. If he's not willing to move out early, then I would probably sell it when the lease ends, which is around September, which is still okay for me. And I might talk about this in my next video or maybe in the later videos, but I will go in detail showing you a comparison between my actual rental unit versus other real estate projects and investment that I've been doing on the side. And I'll be comparing them side by side and see which one gives me a better return overall. Now, I've done some quick math. I haven't looked at it in super detail, but it seems like my other stuff, the non-rental unit stuff, but still real estate related, would have given me a better return compared to my rental unit, which I've talked about before. It is actually a very good return, a very cash flow positive unit already. But even then, it looks like my other stuff, it's gonna outdo my rental unit. So that's why if the condo market does go back up, I am going to sell it this year and then use the equity I have to reinvest in other places that I believe will give me a better return overall. However, I do want to hear from you what you think about the market going into the second half of this year. Do you think it's going to stay the same and become more extreme? Or demand, like I said, is going to shift to other side? Let me know in the comment below. And also, if you like these kind of videos, I do upload them 8:30 EST every Tuesday. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell button so you get all the notifications in the future. Alright, this is Jacky. I hope you found this interesting. I'll see you next week. Bye!